What if the biggest thing that's standing between you and the life you're actually praying for isn't in something that you lost, but it's actually something that you buried? And you see, this is because deep down inside, you know that you started to believe that playing it safe was the same thing as actually being faithful. And so today in this video, we're going to actually confront something that most traders will never talk about, because you see, fear itself doesn't just stop traders from actually taking trades, but fear can actually stop your growth, stop you from walking in obedience to your calling. And if this happens for too long, fear slowly starts to actually build a life for you that is filled with limitations while it's still trying to call itself using wisdom. And so if you ever felt stuck in your journey, or felt even hesitant to moving forward, or maybe even afraid to fully step into what you believe that you're capable of, then this video is going to be for you. And so before I get into the solutions as to how we can make sure that we're not allowing the limitations of what fear can actually start producing in our lives based off of us not being obedient to our calling, I want to share with you a story that actually is going to give us the details of why it's so specific for us to stay obedient to our call. So you can find this in Matthew chapter 25, verse 14, and it says, "For the kingdom of heaven is as a man traveling into a far country, who called his own servants and delivered unto them his goods. And unto one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, to every man according to his several abilities, and straightway took his journey." Now, here's what's fascinating. When I was reading this story for the first time, and even times when I was allowing other people to tell me what this story is about, here was, I'm hearing how there is a man traveling to a far country, and he actually, gives his possessions off to his servants. But see, what wasn't clicking is the actual comparison itself as to why this is specifically like the kingdom of heaven, where there is a man that is just giving off his goods to his servants. Well, you see, what's interesting about this is Jesus himself, God, that is giving these gifts and these goods to his servants who has the abilities to doing more with it. And so it tells us in scripture that it was to every man according to his several abilities as why they were given what they were given. But you see, when I was able to hear that one person was given 5 talents and one person was given 2 and the other person was given 1, see, that didn't really click or resonate as to why that was so significant. And so this is why it's important that we can't just read the scriptures from just the surface level, because then we're going to be actually missing some key details as to why we have to define things that are in scripture. Because if we don't, we can just continue to read a story and have no idea what it's actually referring to. And so here it is, what the scriptures is telling us, talents actually means gold. And so now when you're hearing 5 talents, you actually can now refer to that as talents of gold. But see, this is not what's so fascinating. What starts to really get interesting is, well, how much did they actually get blessed with? And so here's the thing. If 1 talent of gold weighs about 75 pounds, well, in order for you to figure out what that is in today's dollars, you would have to convert that pounds into ounces, which would give us about 1,090 ounces that we then have to multiply what gold actually has value of currently right now to today, which is sitting at 4,994 currently right now, which means just 1 talent of gold in today's dollars is worth $5.3 million. And so the person that was given 2 talents, he was given $10.6 million. And the person that was given 5 was given $26.5 million. And so now, just by us knowing that, this is starting to completely change how we're thinking about this story. Because you see, here it is, as we're reading the person that was given 5, the person that was given 2, and the person that was given 1, you almost in a way start to feel sorry for the person that has 1. But you see, it's the small details of actually going deep underneath the surface is what actually allows you to actually start revealing to you more of the truth, so that what you're actually learning is something that you actually implement into your life. So now let's go further. So here it is. We have, understood now how much they were actually given. So now let's actually see what they did with it. And so then in verse 16, it says, and then he that had received 5 talents went and traded with the same and made them 5 other talents. And likewise, he that had received 2 had gained other 2. But he that had received 1 went and digged in the earth and hid his Lord's money. And then verse 19 says, after a long time, the Lord of those servants cometh and reckoned with them. And so he that had received 5 talents came and brought other 5 talents, saying, Lord, thou delivered unto me 5 talents. Behold, I have gained beside them 5 talents more. And his Lord said unto him, well done, thou good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thee into the joy of thy Lord. And then it says, he also that had received 2 talents came and said, Lord, thou deliverest unto me 2 talents. Behold, I have gained 2 other talents beside them. His Lord answered unto him, well done, good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of thy Lord. And so I want to stop right there just for a second. See, you notice something about the characteristics of these 2 individuals that were so happy by the time that their master came back. They were just wanting to just reveal all that they've done with what was promised to them. And you see, what's funny about this is, see, they understood what was being given to them, and they also understood what they were supposed to do with it. They went out there and multiplied what was already given to them. But here's what's most critical and key that a lot of people miss. You see, the person that had 5 talents, he went out there and multiplied what was given. And his master said, well done, good and faithful servant. But then notice what the master also said to the person that had 2 and turned it into 4. He said the exact same things to the person that had 5 when he went out there and be obedient to what he was being blessed with. He told him that you have been faithful over a few things, and now you can enter into the joy of thy Lord. And you see, what's interesting about that is, see, what do we do in our society now? We look to our left and to our right, and we start to judge, well, this person here has more than I do. And so now all of a sudden we start looking at our gifts and thinking they're not gifts no more, because we just became so focused on looking to our neighbors and almost in a way willing to just swap out our gifts for what they have, instead of being willing to nurture our gifts, like the story of the talents, where these 2 individuals, they didn't look to their left or the right. They focused on what they had. And so if currently right now you have a small trading account and you're trying to compare your account to somebody that has already been doing this for 5 to 6 something years plus, it just doesn't make sense. Why? Because they are multiplying what they have been given. And so you need to start focusing on doing the same. But let's continue to keep reading to figure out what the person that had 1, what he chose to do with his talent. And so then in verse 24, and it says, then he which that had received 1 talent came and said, Lord, I knew thee that thou art a hard man, reaping where thou hast not sown, and gather where thou hast not strawed. And I was afraid, and I went and hid thee talent in the earth. Lo, there thou hast that in then. And his Lord answered and said unto him, thou wicked and slothful servant, thou knewest that I reap where I have not sown not, and gather where I have not strawed. Thou oughtest therefore to have put my money to the exchangers, and then at my coming I shall have received mine own with usury. And then it says in verse 28, take therefore thou talent from him, and give it unto which that hath 10 talents. For unto every one that hath shall be given, and he shall have abundance. But from him that have not shall be taken away even that which he hath. And cast ye the unprofitable servant into utter darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. So this is just a lot that we got to break down at this point. So here it is. We see that the master, when the person that had 5 and the person that had 2, they were able to enter into the joy of thy Lord and receive so much more than what they had been given. We already established that at the time, the person that had 2 already would receive 10.6 million. Now, the person that had 5 already had 26.5 million. And so could you imagine that here it is, your master is coming back and you're just so happy to share with them that you multiply what you already had. And then he's telling you, you have been trustworthy over a few things, and now I'm going to get much more through my obedience. It's like, hold up, sign me up for that. Because you see, here's the thing. Could you imagine if the person that had 2 had the perspective of the person that had 1 and so fearful about what could happen and chose to do nothing with it at all? Imagine all that he would have lost because he was either willing to look at his neighbor and say, well, I mean, of course he's going to succeed. He already has more. He has a whole lot more that he could lose. I don't. What if he had that mentality? He would have been just like that person that got cast out and he got called a wicked and slothful servant. And here's what's interesting about those words. Slothful means lazy. Wicked is a deeper word, and it refers to like furniture, where the furniture is actually getting woven into each other. And so whenever you hear in the scriptures that somebody is being wicked, it's like that is a part of their being. So them being wicked is getting woven into the fabric of their being. That's just who they are. And so it was for these reasons as to why he got kicked out, because he already knew what he was supposed to do and he chose to not do those things. And so this is why it's important for us to get context on what is being shared, because imagine if we didn't actually identify how much the person that was given 1 talent, how much was he actually really given? If we didn't identify that, it's so easy for somebody to take this out of context and say, well, I mean, he only has 1. I mean, it makes sense as to why he wouldn't, risk the 1 that he has. But no, you don't understand. You see, through that lens, you're always going to look at a scarcity mindset and feel like the 1 that you have is not good enough to do more with it. This is just all I have. But no, he was given 5.3 million in today's dollars. And so here's the point to this. How many of you are currently right now sitting on 5.3 million, but you're so focused on looking to your left and to your right of saying, well, I don't have what this person has. And so now the very blessing of what you have been given, you're not looking at as a blessing no more. You're almost looking at as a curse. But I'm here to tell you, if you're looking at your account and your trading account that way, or you're using this and saying this about your finances, that all of a sudden I just can't get ahead, then unfortunately, because you're being ungrateful for the things that has been given you, all the things that has been given to you is a blessing. Because somebody right now would wish that they were in your circumstance and would also want all the problems that it comes with as well. And so while you're allowing the problems of your life to consume you with fear and being afraid, you're now not even taking action on the very things of what you have that can absolutely give you the abundance of what he's telling you could have. And you see, here's what blew my mind. It wasn't only that he was making excuses as to why he didn't go out there and multiply like the others, but I'm going to read to you again what the master actually told him was also possible. And so back in verse 26, he says, his Lord answered and said unto him, thou wicked and slothful servant, thou knewest that I reap where I have not sown not, and gather where I have not strawed. Thou oughtest therefore to have put my money to the exchangers, and then at my coming I should have received my own with usury. See, now this is very fascinating. So what he's saying is, for starters, you knew what you were supposed to do with it and you chose not to. It already told us in the beginning of this chapter that every single one of them were giving something according to their several abilities. So the master already knew what he was capable of doing with what he was being given. So when he's coming back, he's expecting to see some kind of form of return. Because see, that's actually what the word usury actually means in Hebrew. It means interest. So we have to understand that your God, my God, is here giving us a calling on this earth. And so everything that he has given us, resources, he has given it to us abundantly. But here's the thing. If you're not looking at all the abundance that you have and seeing how you can use it diligently so that it can enhance your life, then guess what? It even tells us that what you don't use, you will lose. And even most importantly, it will be given to somebody else that knows what to do with it. And so here's the other thing, because here it is, he said, thou also have put my money with the exchangers, and then at my coming, I shall have received my own with usury. So here's the other thing he's telling us. Even if you thought that you weren't capable of being able to multiply your money, because see what they were doing with their money, they were trading it. Because you see the word exchangers in Hebrew actually means bankers, brokers. It's somebody that is exchanging money or converting it in some way. And so here it is, they're exchanging their money, they're trading their money in order for them to multiply their blessings. And so what he's saying is, even if you thought that you weren't capable of what I had blessed you with, it's not an excuse for you to just not do anything with it at all. You could have put my money with somebody else that is also capable, that also knows what to do with it. And then still at my coming, I still could have gotten some form of interest on my money. So again, it's not just everything has to rely on your efforts to still be considered a good and faithful servant. It's absolutely okay for us to get help. But what's not okay is for us to be a wicked and slothful servant where we feel like we can go and just live our life however we want to and think that somehow that's not going to result into us having some kind of consequences that we have to deal with. Because you see, it's very easy for us to read a story like this and say, well, yeah, that was just their story. And, you know, my situation is just a little bit more different because I don't necessarily have 5.3 million. And again, what I'm sharing with you is this. He thought he didn't have 5.3 million as well. And so that's what happens when you have a scarcity mindset, is that regardless of what you have, you don't see it as what is really there. And so hopefully this is just painting a picture for you just to evaluate what is currently in your home right now. The gifts, the abilities that God has already blessed you with, that right now you could actually change your financial situation based off of implementing what you already know how to do. But you see, the key essence is that you have to apply action that applies to your belief. You cannot operate outside of your belief. And so it's not until you start getting yourself aligned to what God is saying what is possible, then you no longer have to rely on your own understanding based off of the situation that you're currently in right now. And you see, what happens is oftentimes people want to just take a piece of the Bible and lift it out of context and just say that, oh, I only have to refer just to this one. But here's the thing. It's not just a piece or a verse necessarily. It's like in its entirety is what creates the word. And so what we got to do is compare scripture with scripture and make sure they don't contradict, because the truth itself cannot contradict itself. It only supports itself. And so this next verse that I'm about to actually share with you is going to absolutely blow your mind, because when this actually got ingrained into my way of being, and I stopped listening to the outside noise of society of somehow telling us that somehow being poor means that you are being humble, it is absolutely the furthest thing from the truth. And so here in Proverbs, it's telling us, in all labor there is profit, but the talk of the lips tendeth only to penury. And so let's break this down so we can actually understand the significance behind these words. So the word labor in Hebrew actually means work for one, business, as well as assignment. But the word profit in Hebrew actually means to have something to benefit, to gain or have an advantage. So here it is, if we read that back, in all labor there is profit. So now if we remember what we were getting from the talents, is that through taking action on what it is that you believe, well, over time, through you working on your assignment, will allow you to have something to gain, to have something to benefit of, and most importantly, have an advantage. So notice that the person that had 5 and went out there and took action on what it is that he believed because his master told him it was possible, we see that the abundance started to show up all around him based off of what he was actually willing to act upon. So that's absolutely incredible. So now we're understanding to act in your beliefs is what starts to produce your lifestyle. Okay, incredible. You have something to benefit, have something to gain, or have an advantage, which is interesting because that's now saying if you don't do this one, you automatically by default have to go through this one. And so what it says is, but the talk of the lips tendeth only to penury. So here's what's fascinating. The word tendeth in Hebrew actually means to be directed towards something. And don't just take my word for it. Look it up yourself, because it's not until you're willing to do your own deep dive to discovering the truth is where it really starts to actually resonate of what you personally need to do of owning your own future. But again, it means to be directed towards something. Well, what are you getting directed towards? Well, you see the word penury in Hebrew means to actually have a deficiency, a need, and most importantly, poverty. Now see, that right there messed me up. Because you see, here it is, even sometimes in our church, they almost condemn you for even just talking about money, because what did they try to say? Money is the root of all evil. But see, here's what they're doing. For starters, that's not what it says in the Bible. It says the love of money is the root of all evil. So even when you're taking out words, it's automatically changing the entirety of what that scripture is actually saying. So we're not supposed to be in love with money. We're supposed to use it to our advantage to be able to enhance our lives, multiply as it's telling us, to be good stewards with the money so that we can actually go out and be a bigger blessing to those that actually needs it. And so again, how did they get directed towards poverty? Well, it says again, but the talk of the lips tendeth only to penury. So imagine if you're not working on your assignment, your business of what you're getting called to, then guess what happens by default? You're only talking about the vision that you see that God has given you, but then you somehow think that through you not taking any action that somehow that's going to magically start to happen in your life. And it's not going to happen. It's only going to lead down one path. And it's telling us a deficiency, a need, or poverty. Because you see, here's what we got to understand. For that trader that is actually got their talent currently buried, they're saying words like, well, when I actually feel comfortable, that's when I'll actually be ready and that's when I will start. Or they're saying, if only I just have more money, then that's when I'll actually be able to start. But you see, the trader that believes that they can multiply their money, they are the individuals that say, I'm going to start now and I'm going to continue to learn how to multiply it. And so here's the thing. Now is the time for us to do a self-evaluation. All of us at some point was willing to bury the very things of what we couldn't see at the time was an absolute blessing in our lives. But now is the time for us to identify what areas of our life are we currently doing that to right now, where we feel like we don't have 5.3 million and not treating it as such. But now from us being enlightened, that we may have been allowing fear to control our decision making, which has been creating limitations on our life. And we haven't been able to see that abundance yet because it's leading us down a path of poverty. But now you see, you can actually do something about it by starting to allow the labor that you're putting in to eventually over time being able to see the profits starting to show up through your diligence. And so if this video has blessed you in any kind of way, be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Because you have to remember that God intended for all of us to multiply what has already been given to us. And that when fear comes knocking on our door for a new challenge that we haven't yet faced, that we overcome it with our actions because we believe in what God says is possible more than anything else. So with that, stay blessed.